Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Awake to Oneness Radio. I am Caroline Cheng, your host. The mission of Awake to Oneness Radio is to inspire the world to awaken to the universal truth of oneness. Science and spirituality are telling us that we are literally all connected. We are literally all one. Therefore, whatever you do to another person, you are really doing to another aspect of yourself. And when the world awakens to this universal truth of oneness, there will be peace on earth. Today's show topic is Body and Soul Connection of Yoga Healing with Lara Rubin Alexiou. Lara is the owner of Steamtown Hot Yoga in Scranton, Pennsylvania. She has been teaching yoga for over 15 years. I met Lara about 2 months ago when I started my hot yoga practice. I first heard about hot yoga several years ago when I was listening to a videotape of Dr. Wayne Dyer. He mentioned that he had been running several miles, I think maybe about 7 miles a day for many, many, many years. And he was not running anymore. He was doing hot yoga every day for 90 minutes. And he said he got more of a workout, a more intense workout from a 90-minute hot yoga session than he ever did with running miles and miles a day. So that was really inspiring, and I'd heard of yoga, but I had never heard of hot yoga before. Then something this summer, I had extra time. I just started searching for hot yoga in my area, and I discovered Steamtown Hot Yoga. And when I discovered that site, I also found a videotape of Lara, which I would like for her to talk to you and share more with you in a little while on that. So I'd like to welcome Lara to Awake to Oneness Radio. Thank you, Lara, so much. I'm loving my hot yoga classes. I wish
thank
I could,
you, Caroline.
I wish I could go every day. I really, if it was a little bit closer. Steamtown, Scranton is about a half an hour away from where I live, and if it was just if it was 15 minutes closer, I would be there every day. I'm just loving it. But thank you so much, Lara, for being with us today. And what I wanted to share with the audience is when I discovered Steamtown Hot Yoga, I also found the TEDx video of you speaking, and what really touched me was the fact that you were diagnosed with MS in 2003. And the reason that touched me so much, resonated with me, because I have a daughter almost your age. I think she's about 2 years younger than you. She was also diagnosed with MS the same exact year, 2003, when she was 23. So when when I saw the video, I was like, I have to meet you. I have to go. So please share with our listeners your story of yoga and your journey with our listeners.
All right. Thank you. Well, I started my yoga practice not really knowing anything about yoga, just really having an idea that I should do some yoga. And I'm not quite sure even exactly why I thought that. At the time, it was about 15 years ago, and yoga was around, but it certainly wasn't as mainstream as it is today. And hot yoga certainly was not as mainstream as it is today. But I just dabbled a little bit in yoga when I was in college, and I thought, like I could probably do that. That might be what I'm looking for, because I really felt like I was looking for something. There was definitely a search that was going on within me. And I bring that up because I see that in my students who come in. I've had the studio for about 8 years now, and we get all different kinds of people, as you know, from all the different people whom you've met yourself coming to class in the last couple months. We really get a wide variety. But the common theme is that everybody is really searching for something. There's something that they feel is missing, and they somehow feel that perhaps attending these yoga classes will somehow fulfill them in some way. And everybody articulates that a little differently, but I really have seen over the years that that's the common theme that brings people to yoga. There's some feeling of emptiness. There's some kind of void, just something not right, and you think, well, try some yoga, see if that's gonna fix me right up. So I had that same feeling, and I started practicing yoga, and I found hot yoga, and because there's a lot of different kinds, and when I found a hot yoga practice, I just felt like, wow, this is it. This is my yoga. And I've never looked back since doing that. And at the time that I started, I would say that I was in fairly good health. I mean, I certainly wasn't in poor health. I didn't go to yoga specifically for any kind of health reason. I did end up losing weight through the practice. I did end up toning up, getting stronger, getting more flexible, all of those things. I did find that my mind, for the first time, I think, ever in my life, really had a clarity. I felt a happiness. I really felt a joy in myself, in my own skin, that I had never felt before. And then a couple years into my practice, I was met with my MS. And what happened was I really tell people that, like, when I went to yoga, I really started feeling good. And I started having a very good sense of waking up in the morning and literally just saying to the world, like, wow, here it is. It's another day, and I feel so good today. I literally had that feeling every day when I would wake up. And then I woke up one day, and I didn't have that feeling. And I knew that there was something not right with me, and I want to say that because I remember being younger. I was 25 at the time, or not yet. I think I was 24, maybe turning 25. I was diagnosed in March, and my birthday's in April, so I can't remember. Okay. I can't exactly remember if I was just about to be 25 or if I was about to be 26. I just can't remember exactly.
That is also coincidental with my daughter. I told you she was also diagnosed in 2003, and she was diagnosed her birthday month. Her birthday, I can't remember the day she was diagnosed, but her birthday is I know she was diagnosed in October, and her birthday is in October. So she was she was 22, just turning 23 when she was diagnosed. So that's another coincidence, or similarity in your story and my daughter's story. Awesome. But go ahead. You were telling us.
Sure. And my first symptoms were like a tingling in my feet up to my knees. It's called neuropathy, for people who might be familiar with that. And it's a very distinct pain. Like anyone who's listening who's ever experienced that, it's not like anything else. It's something you feel, and you know that it's not a pulled muscle. It's not there's an internal feeling about it, sort of a nerve pain kind of feeling. And I found that in addition to this, I had just this tiredness in my body and tiredness in my limbs that I'd never felt. Because as I said, I had this really strong practice. I was young. I was full of life. I felt really good. And then suddenly everything just became a struggle. And I remember at the time of my diagnosis, reading up on it and listening to other people, and there was a man who spoke about it, and I can't remember who said this, but he just seemed to nail it on the head. And he said that you feel as if your legs have turned into peanut butter and been dipped in lead. Mm-hmm. And that was exactly what it felt like when I heard him say that. I thought, yes, that's exactly what it is. It's like your legs are peanut butter. There's no strength in them, and they weigh 10,000 pounds, and you can just barely pick up one foot after another to take a step. Everything was just so trying. And I didn't know what was going on, and I was a little bit scared. Like, this was definitely weird, and I didn't know anyone who had anything like this, so I wasn't quite sure what was going on. And a few days later, maybe a week later, I started going blind in my right eye, and it took me a little while to figure out that was what was happening. And at first it was sort of like a glare in my eye, and I thought, oh, well, that's like weird. Maybe the window, like the light is changing with the equinox. I didn't know what was going on. And then I remember looking at my computer. I was doing computer work at the time, and staring at my screen and not really being able to see the computer screen. And then combined with this other issue I was having and how I was feeling when I woke up in the morning, I just knew that something was really wrong, and I knew that I had to get it looked at. And so that prompted me to, look into going to the doctor, and I was very fortunate to go to a very good doctor and a very good neurologist who was able to get me that diagnosis pretty much right away, because sometimes people with MS will experience it's difficult to find what doctor to go to, and you can sometimes kind of get the runaround. You'll go to the eye doctor because you can't see, and you'll go to the orthopedist because your feet are bothering you, and it kind of takes a little bit to get to the right place. So I was fortunate in that I got to the right place fairly quickly and got this really what was a devastating diagnosis at the time. And I didn't know what was going to happen to me. At the time, I was on schedule to attend a very rigorous teacher training program, and I didn't know if I would be able to go or not be able to go. I didn't know if I could do everything that was expected of me. There's not always a lot of information about your process when you go through this diagnosis, because everyone has such a different experience with this disease, that there's not okay, first this is what happens, then this happens, and this medication does this, and this works, and this doesn't work. There's not really, at the time, there really wasn't anything like that. It was a lot of unknowns, a lot of, some people find that this happens. Other people find that this happens. This medication works for some people. It doesn't work for other people. There was just a lot of unknown information. And so as I kind of looked into the future, I really didn't know what was going on. There was a lot of uncertainty for me at the time.
How many different medications were once you were diagnosed? Do you remember how many different medications did you try, or were you on a certain number of medications?
I was pretty much on 2 medications. I immediately began on interferon medication, which was called Rebif at the time. I think it's still on the market. I don't follow it as closely as I used to, and I know they have a lot more drugs now than they did at the time. But that was what I went on. Is that what I went on first? I think so, because I did switch a few times, but I think that was what I initially started with. And then I also took intravenous steroids, which were really, really rough. They cleared up. They cleared up my vision, pretty much. It took about 2 years for my vision to come back 100%, but after 2 months of 4 days a piece of intravenous steroids, my vision started coming back. It sort of went from sort of like a white blindness to just kind of blurry, and then I could feel like if I really concentrated into that eyeball, I could start to see things again, and the doctor said that it should continue to clear up, and it took about 2 years for that to really completely clear up. But I did a lot of intravenous steroids, and then I went on the interferon injection, and at the time, I think it was 3 times a week that I did that. And through that process, I continued my yoga practice, which was hot yoga, and I bring that up because they say in MS, don't go into the heat, don't warm your body up. You know, that's really contraindicated for people with MS. And my doctor told me that, and I was like, what are you really saying? Like, are you saying that this is going to hurt me? Is it going to make me worse? Is it going to do irreversible damage to me? Or are you just saying I may be uncomfortable? And he said, you may be uncomfortable. When you come out of the heat and you cool down, there should be no lasting effects. I don't believe that you're damaging yourself. So I was like, okay. With that, I felt confident enough that I was just going to keep doing it. And if I decided that it was very uncomfortable to me and made me feel worse, then I would reevaluate if I was going to keep doing it. And I can really tell you, it's the best decision I made to keep doing it, to just keep at it. And there were days I couldn't get through class. There were days I could barely, pick up my feet and stand on one leg and do all those things. It was very, very challenging, but I just needed to get to class. It was the one place I could go and feel like myself. And this is when you mentioned earlier about my TED Talk. That's what I started speaking about, that in yoga class I really felt like there was a connection to myself on the soul level that brought me peace and really brought me healing and brought me even into a space of mind that I could heal, like where healing was a possibility for me. Because when I got this diagnosis, my anxiety, which I'd never had before, skyrocketed, and you're just like, everything kind of puts you on edge. And I remember, everything made me cry, and you get very depressed. And sometimes they say, the medications can make you depressed. Sometimes they say, well, you've just had this devastating diagnosis that makes you depressed. So, like, you're kind of just not yourself. I really wasn't my joyful self. But when I could go to my hot yoga, then I could connect with that joyful self. And I felt like I was doing something empowering for myself, and I think that kept me going. I really wanted to attend the teacher training. I wanted to ultimately become a teacher. I wanted to have a studio one day. There was a life that I wanted to be able to live, and I really made the choice that I didn't want this to define me, that I had other things in my life that I wanted to be, and I didn't want, this one occurrence, this one label, this one diagnosis to be what my whole life was about. So I really decided to do what I needed to do and to go with recommendations from the doctors and do what they told me to do. And then I was also going to do everything in my power that made me feel empowered and made me feel that I was making good, healthy decisions, not just physically, but really emotionally, mentally, and on the soul level for myself.
So when did you kind of feel the turnaround? I know you said it took 2 years for your vision in that one eye to clear up, but and you kept with your yoga practice. You were having difficulty walking. From the video, you said it was really difficult even to walk up a flight of stairs. So when did that turn around for you?
Yeah,
your mobility.
Great question. I would say that I was diagnosed in March. I did go out to the teacher training program, which was a very intense 3-month program. I was living in Pennsylvania. Where was I living? I was living in Washington, D.C. at the time. And I had to go out to L.A., where I didn't know anyone, and go to this training that I really wanted to go. That was where my focus was. And I remember even at the time of that mobility was, it was possible. And I think if you looked at me, you wouldn't really think anything was wrong, but it took a lot of effort, and I would have to rest a lot. So I don't think you would really notice it if you were out with me. I may have walked a little bit slower. I definitely avoided stairs when I could, and always took the elevator places. But I don't think it was as noticeable as it was when I first started. I didn't have to rest quite as much, but it was still trying. And I would say it probably took the pain had subsided by then. I would say that within maybe 4 months that my feet felt better. So walking was not as painful. However, going barefoot was still painful. I could be in shoes, and I went through this whole process that certain shoes and certain socks were okay and certain ones triggered the pain. So I went through this sort of purging process of all my shoes and all my socks, because some of them just constricted too much and brought the neuropathy back. So I was real careful about what kind of shoes and socks, but it was probably a year before I felt like I had my normal self, my normal strength back.
So by March of the following year,
that's what I would say. I would say that. I remember I always went, I was still on very heavy medication, and I would see my doctor every month, and they go through all these different tests, and they test all of your reflexes, and they test your strength and all of that. And I did feel that when I came out of my teacher training program that I was the strongest that I'd been in a while, and that I was kind of on the upswing of really feeling my best.
Now, a question, because you mentioned that when you were barefoot, your feet would hurt, but you have to do yoga barefoot. So
yes.
How did that work?
I still did my practice barefoot, but I couldn't walk around the studio barefoot, which you'll see me do all the time now. So I had like these little house slippers that I would wear when I was outside of practice. So there was something about being stationary that was okay, but something about walking that wasn't okay.
Okay. I see.
And it wasn't exactly a pain. It was just a weird, uncomfortable feeling. It's hard to explain. It wasn't like, ow, it just was, ooh, I don't like the way this feels. And somehow finding the right kind of padding for the shoes somehow helped it to feel better.
Okay. And so within a year you were feeling better, and when did you get to a point where you just felt like I beat this? I don't have this anymore.
Yeah, it took a lot longer than that. I would say within a year I did feel better, but I remember the first few years were still really rough. Like I would say the first 3 years, especially like the summers, when the summers would come, like real swampy in D.C., I did have a really, really hard time with that. I remember just not wanting to go out or be out. So I would say the first 3 or 4 years were really, really rough, and then it sort of happened gradually, and I just really started feeling better. I was on a few different medications. I went through a few different things, but I really decided, I didn't have any more classic symptoms. I had some fatigue, I had some tiredness, but I didn't get any more acute symptoms. I didn't have any more problems with my eye. I didn't have any more neuropathy. I didn't have any more sort of tingling in any other places that tends to happen, or loss of mobility in other areas of my limbs that tends to happen. So I felt really good about that. I felt like whatever I was doing was working. My combination of my medication, my combination of my yoga practice, my combination of my good attitude as well. I did keep up a really, really good attitude. I never let myself go into that place of why me, why is this happening to me, any of those things that you do go through when you get an initial diagnosis. But I just really decided that if this was going to be an aspect of me, it didn't have to be the most telling aspect of myself, that there were other things that I was going to keep doing and being involved in and really growing and manifesting in myself. So I put a lot of attention into my physical practice, into making my body really, really strong, into setting myself challenges for things I wanted to do, setting myself goals for keeping up my practice, and really designing my whole life around that, and making my personal well-being the most important thing for myself, really being my own advocate and just designing my life around that. And that just meant things like, going to bed. Like I needed to go to bed early, and I needed to get up at a certain time. Like there were just things like that. I needed to eat at certain times. I noticed that if I was hungry, I had a much harder time with things. And I remember that early on, that I really had to have a regular eating schedule.
A good question. Did you change your diet at all from the time you were diagnosed to now, or as you were, gradually getting and feeling better, did you change your eating at all?
I did not, but I've had very healthy eating since before this happened to me, because I was really strongly into my practice. I was very aware of what I put in my body. So I didn't feel like I need to. When I looked at my life, I didn't feel like, gosh, I really should be cutting this out. I felt like I had a healthy diet that really nourished me in the way that I needed, and I stayed with that same thing. I just noticed that I had to really be more regular about my eating habits and not let myself get too hungry, because then I kind of felt the weakness come on in a way that I knew I could prevent if I just kind of kept my blood sugar a little more steady. So then what happened?
When were you? Oh, I'm sorry. When were you completely off medication? Because I know you're not on medication now.
Yes,
so
that's
when
correct.
How long did it take for you to just wean yourself, I guess, off the medication completely?
Let's see. I started medicating in 2003, and in 2010, I believe, is when I stopped. It might have been early in 2011, actually, is probably when it was. It was probably the spring of 2011. And it was a decision that I did make with my doctor. I continued all my regular checkups, and I got regular MRIs, and I really felt like the medications, and again, since I haven't been on the medications in a while, I don't know what new therapies they have with the side effects, but the side effects are really, really difficult, and they never really got better. No matter how many years I was on them, like the side effects just never went away, and I started feeling like I was doing well. My tests were clear. My MRIs looked really, really good. They looked the best that they had ever looked, which they say can't happen. They say once you have these plaques in your brain, that's it. They don't go away. But my MRIs showed that they did go away. And so I brought this up with my doctor. I was like, maybe I don't need to be on these medications. The side effects are difficult for me. I feel really good. Like, can we stop taking it? I just really felt like I just needed a break. I was having a hard time with the side effects, and I just felt like I just had enough. Anyone who's on any kind of long-term medication knows what it feels like, and you just get to that point and you feel like enough is enough. Is there any other option? So we went back and we looked at everything. We looked at all my scans. I got all new scans, and we looked at it and decided that while we were stepping into the unknown, if I felt comfortable with that, and pretty much, if I agreed that if there was any change in how I felt or any of my scans, that he would recommend that I immediately go back on the medication. And I said, okay, I'm willing to. I decided I was willing to take that risk. That was just where I was. I wanted to take that risk, and that was in 2011. And I continue to be very aware of it. I take care of myself. I continue my practice. I continue my good attitude, my healthy lifestyle. All these things. But I will say that I've not had to go on medication. I've remained asymptomatic. They do say the longer you go without having symptoms, the less likely you are to have symptoms. So I sort of have that statistic in my favor. at this point. And I wake up again and I feel really good. And when the TED Talk came around and when they asked me to speak about that, I decided to speak about this, hoping that I could help other people. It's something that I really didn't share outside of speaking about it in the TEDx talk. It's not something most of my students knew. It was something I really kept very private for the most part.
Wow.
And then when this opportunity came around, I thought, well, this may be an appropriate forum for this. And I wanted to share it with people really so I could empower people that whatever your diagnosis is, that doesn't have to define you, that you don't have to let that be what you're all about, and that you can really find a way to continue to express yourself, to continue to do what you can, to nourish yourself. That's one of the things I really wanted people to get out of the talk.
Well, that is wonderful, because I'm so glad that you did share that information in the TED Talk. You're actually the second person I've met who has cured themselves with yoga from MS. I had another guest on a few months ago by the name of Sam Shelley, and he lives in the Philadelphia area. He had several incurable diagnoses, MS being one of them, and his first step to recovery was yoga. And then from yoga, he got into meditation, and he is no longer. He used to be on 13 different medications, and he is on no medications, and he is doing fine. So you're like, when I'm like, I keep hearing these amazing stories of people who did not allow their diagnosis to define them. They took control of their own health.
The body is amazing. Like we really are these living miracles, and we do have a great ability to heal ourselves. And I always decided that I didn't know to what extent I could physically heal myself. I really didn't know, but I thought, there are other kinds of healing. If you can be healed in your mind, if you can be at peace, with your emotional state, and there's so many other ways that's got to affect your physical form. I mean, I believe that. I believe in that union of the body, mind, and spirit. So
exactly.
I don't know, but there's a lot of different avenues, and if I can really use all avenues that are available to me, and if I can go into this really with no expectation and just, believing that this is the best thing I can be doing for myself, I believed that I would see results, and that I would see it because I wasn't depending on someone else or something else. It was really coming from within.
Yes. You just touched upon so many things that resonate with me, because I truly believe that everything that we need, we really have already within us. Like you mentioned earlier about the students coming to the studio, you get that sense they're all trying to fill a void, which yoga is great, because what yoga does do, I'm a newbie to the practice, but from my understanding of yoga, it is that mind, spirit, body connection. And once you have a healthy mind, healthy spirit, healthy body, you're gonna find within internally what you're looking for, and it's probably will be different for every single student. But once you make that connection, that it'll come from within what you need.
Exactly.
I believe
that. You said it exactly. Yep, you got it. It doesn't take long. It doesn't take long. That's something you feel right away. That's why yoga is so powerful, is that when you commit to it, because Carolyn, I remember you came in and you were like, I'm here, I'm on a mission, this is how often I want to come to class. You were ready. You were really ready for that healing to happen. And your healing is very different from the person who came in before you, the person coming in after you. You had a different sense in yourself of what that meant to you, but you were ready. You were committed, and you were sticking to a schedule, because that's important. You know, we can say we want a lot of things, but we need our actions to back that up. And you came in and you showed up and you were willing to do the work and to not shy away from it. And when we have that commitment and that determination in ourselves, then just we really see that so much is possible, that we really have the possibility within ourselves for so many great things.
That's so true, because that's also one of the missions I have for the radio show, is also to share that message of self-empowerment, self-healing. So what you have, you really, when you find that quiet space, that quiet, like with yoga, you quiet your mind, you connect with your breath. When you do that, you find what you're seeking. And that's also one of the missions of this show, is to share that message, the message of oneness, as well as the message of self-healing, self-empowerment, I guess is the best word. And that's why I love when I meet, people like you that have gone through, a devastating diagnosis, and you're everything you planned in your life, you're doing. You plan to be a yoga instructor. You plan to have your own studio. You didn't let the little thing like MS stop you.
Exactly.
It's so amazing. Now, I also I read on the your website that you're also certified in Zen Wellness Medical Qigong. Okay.
Yes.
Could you explain to our listeners what Zen Wellness Medical Qigong is? Qigong,
yes.
am I saying that right?
Qigong. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, you're doing great. And it's another healing modality. It's another Eastern healing art, which really works with the energy in the body. And I talk about it a little bit in class when you're really in the zone, and you notice that there's sometimes a little bit of buzzing in the body. It's almost like you're still, yet there's a movement in you. There's a rhythm of yourself that you're feeling, and that's your life force, and that's the chi, or the prana, as sometimes in yoga it's called. In qigong we call it chi, and that's the life force that you're trying to continuously move through your body. And in qigong, as well as in yoga, and in my life, and I teach this to all my students, we work on this in one way or another, that when the energy in your body isn't moving, it gets stale, it gets stagnant, it gets dirty, it gets heavy, and that's when disease moves in. So we're doing all of these modalities to help us keep that energy moving throughout the body and to keep us in good health. So in qigong, there's many different movements that are involved. There's different meditations. I would really say that my personal meditation practice grew out of my qigong practice. And it's just another healing art that helps you address the body and helps you move physically in the body. It helps you move in stillness and meditation through the body. It helps you move in your breath work through the body.
Okay. For me, I guess my meditation is usually a moving. I meditate while I walk. I do power walks every morning, and I look at the trees and the sky and just observe. I just try to be very present in the now, and observe what's around me and be very still and just connecting, noticing the trees and the leaves and the sky and whatever sounds that are going by. So I'm more of a moving meditator, and so the yoga practice works so well for me. But the only time I do a sitting meditation where I'm sitting quietly and really just focusing on my breath is when I'm at the lake. I love just the water, and when I'm at a lake, I will sit and I will meditate for hours, and it will just, yeah. But
it just
but
takes
moving,
you into the zone.
Yes. But I do understand that. I've never done Qigong, and I do want to learn more about that and maybe try that. But because I know it's a kind of a moving meditation. So
yes.
And I'm
yes. A lot of people are familiar with Tai Chi, so it's along the same vein of that. Tai Chi is a form of Qigong.
Okay. Very good. I just thought that for me, it's the healing, the natural healing modalities always resonate with me so much. I just try to stay moving, like you say. So if I believe if I keep moving, I'm letting that energy flow through me, like you say.
Exactly.
If you sit too long or are very stationary, that it like you said, the chi, the energy just kind of gets blocked, and then that's when disease can filter in. So I'm a big believer in that. Now, share with our listeners also a little bit about, you're going to be going in October, I think, to, it is the 2015 Mind Body Bold Conference.
Yes, what that is, I'm very excited about that. It's actually a collection of studio owners, of yoga studio owners, wellness studio owners, coming together to learn and to bond and to network and just have that support of being in the yoga studio industry and connecting with students, and just really we're going to go and share different ways that we're able to connect with students, some different business practices that help us reach our students, that help us get our students to commit to themselves, to commit to a practice. And I'm really excited. I am going to be speaking to a group there about how to reach people, how to get your message out there, how to get people into your studio, and excited about what you're teaching. Because I think that, as we know, there's really been this explosion of yoga and wellness and Eastern healing arts and these modalities that are more natural, that aren't involving medications, not meditations, but medication.
Medication, Western medication.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Yes. And that we as studio owners need to really find a way to reach people and to be supportive of each other and find a way to really bring these modalities out into the world through our studios. So that's what we're going to be meeting about and connecting with each other about, and then hopefully coming back to our own schools with some good ideas about how to just keep doing what we're doing and keep at it, because I think that you'll probably find, maybe you find this with some of your other guests, you'll have to let me know. Sometimes when you're in this kind of field, it can be discouraging sometimes, because you'll help a lot of people, and then you'll sort of feel like there's some sort of setback, or that you're not doing as much as you can. Like it's a very interesting field to be in. You always feel like you want to be doing more and helping more people, and you're just not always sure. Sometimes you wonder, are you is it worth it what you're doing? Are you really helping people? You'll go through some self-doubt. It can be helpful to go through, to connect with people at conferences like this.
Exactly, that are going through the same thing. Exactly. I actually went to, the first time I've ever went to LA was this past May. I was invited by Dr. Reverend Michael Beckwith, who is the spiritual leader of Agape Center, which is another inspiration of mine, is to open a nonprofit community center in my area called the Kyle Foundation Center in my son's memory. But it was both the radio show and the community center, the Kyle Center, are all just me following my heart, you know. And I understand what you're saying about when you follow your heart. Sometimes you wonder, am I really, you know, is it worth it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I truly believe that if that's what we were put here for, that's why we came into this existence. Whatever our heart, our passion is, your passion was yoga, to open your own yoga studio, and you followed it, even though you had that diagnosis of MS, you still followed your heart. And I just believe in my heart that if you follow your heart, it's always going to lead you to exactly where you're supposed to be, and it will always be something good. So but it's very good to be, because when I went to LA to the Agape Center, the 2015 Revelation celebration, I was surrounded by other people like me, you know.
Yeah,
and it was
wonderful.
Like it was so inspiring. It was like it's like so. You have to do that every now and then. Every few months, you have to go and immerse yourself in the same people that are in that same vibe, that are going with the flow the way you are. You have to kind of surround yourself by them just to re-energize, and then go back to your studio, go back to your neck of the woods, and carry on your work, because I understand exactly what you're saying.
Yes,
awesome.
Yes, and I would even say that when someone does get some kind of diagnosis, that there's that tendency not to go out, not to connect with other people. And if anyone is listening, I would really encourage that person to go out, to find a community to connect with, because I think that's also what I really found in my yoga practice. Was I also found a healing community that I could go be a part of, and that helped me to do everything that I've done. I couldn't do it on my own. Like, while healing is a very personal thing and a yoga practice is very personal, like you say, we're all connected. You know, we're all one. So if you can go and be with a community, I think that makes everything just a little bit easier and a little more inspired.
Yes. Also, you are blessed to have a partner, a life partner, who is also a yogi. Can you share a little bit about how you guys met and what you... Yes, please.
Yes, my husband, his name is John, but we affectionately call him Yanni at the studio, which is his Greek name because he's a Greek heritage. And incidentally, agape is a Greek word. It's the Greek word for love. So that's really the love center. So when I read that, I was like, oh, agape.
Yes.
It's wonderful.
The thing I love about agape, the Greek word agape, it means unconditional love. Because in the Greek, they had more than one word for love.
Yes, they're very
agape,
into love.
is the unconditional divine love. So, yes. But
even better. That's wonderful. And we met a few years ago. Maybe, let's see, we've been together we've been married for 3 years. We just had our 3-year anniversary earlier this month. We've been together, thank you. Just, we kind of got, as soon as we started dating, we sort of knew that was it. So we've been together almost 4 years, but not quite. But we knew each other for many years before we started dating.
Did you meet doing yoga?
Everybody always wants to know that. And we did not meet doing yoga. We met through a mutual friend. And while Yanni had come to the studio a couple times, really it wasn't until, as I say, when he started wooing me, that he suddenly showed up in the practice room every day.
Okay.
But really we met outside the yoga studio, and we were very good friends for many years. And then just, the circumstances just one day really brought us together. And I just remember, looking at him across my kitchen table and going, wow, I think this is it. I think this is the guy for me. And I know it sounds so silly, but I knew, like, as soon as we started dating, I just knew that this was really a great match for me. And we just have we get to work together in this common goal. He works with us here at the studio and works towards the greater good of all of our students, and just helps me just by being so wonderful. I couldn't ask for anybody better. We really complement each other. Things that I'm good at, he's not so good at. Things that he's really good at, I'm terrible at. So we just really have a great compatibility. It's true. Yes. It is really, really true in us. And yes. I feel really blessed to have a partner who really works with me in this common goal of helping people, going through this transformation, wanting the best for people. And he comes from a very spiritual family. He's known yoga his whole life. His mother has been into yoga. His mother also does Reiki and feng shui and all different kinds of healing. So he really grew up in these healing arts. So when we met, we just really clicked together, and it just felt really comfortable.
Amazing. Now, please share with our audience how they can find you online.
Yes, the easiest way is steamtownyoga.com. And if you just even search Steamtown Yoga, or if you search Hot Yoga, you should be able to find us. We are located in Scranton, Pennsylvania. But I'd love to hear from any of your viewers. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter. So I know that there's always a lot of buzz about these podcasts that you do. So I am more than happy to answer any kind of question. I do sometimes get very personal questions from people about perhaps some different diagnoses that they've had. Do I recommend hot yoga for them? Sometimes people are looking for certain things and they want to just, bounce some ideas off of someone who's been in a similar situation. So I want to assure everyone that I've gotten, all kinds of questions about all kinds of health, and I'm not a healthcare practitioner, but I can give you my story, and I would love to listen, and I can just give you, another point of view if that's what they're seeking. And I would love for them to connect with me again in all those social medias. They can also find us as Steamtown Yoga, and I would love to connect with them.
What's so wonderful is just you sharing your story. I mean, there's a neighbor on my block just down the street. I've seen her. I haven't met her, but I did find out she's in a wheelchair, and I was wondering, because she's very young, she's in her early 40s. She has MS. She has a young son, 8 years old. And so there's so many people that even, listening, and then, like, the great thing about Internet radio, they don't have to listen live. This will be on the Internet, and anybody with a computer all over the world can listen to this broadcast and be inspired by your story. So I find that's another thing I like to do with this show is, have more people like you and Sam, anyone who has overcome those challenges, share those stories, because just your story is the inspiration that another person might need to hear, so they can say, okay, you know what, I think I'm not going to let this diagnosis stop me. I'm going to do what my heart is telling me to do. So just sharing
and they're
your
not
story
alone.
is amazing.
They don't have to do it alone. They can reach out to any of us, and that's so powerful that you have this show, that you are bringing people together, because I think also that's why we come to yoga. We come to yoga and these modalities first to connect to ourselves at the soul level, and when we find that self-connection, then, like you said at the beginning of the show, we realize we are connected to everyone else. We're not separate. So it's so important that you have this show and that people are able to connect all over the world.
Well, that's what I love internet radio, because it's not like old-fashioned radio. You miss the show, you miss the show. You know?
Yep.
But internet radio, it's there. Once it's on the internet, it's there for life.
That's right.
I like to share with you and with the listeners. I'm really, really excited. Awake to Oneness Radio and the Kyle Foundation. The Kyle Foundation will be hosting our first event, and it will be we'll be hosting a celebration of Global Oneness Day. Now, we will be hosting a celebration for Global Oneness Day at the Pocono Mountain Public Library in Tobyhanna on Saturday, October 24th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. This is actually the 6th annual Global Oneness Day celebration, which is sponsored by Humanities Team. What it is a free virtual all-day summit. So you'll be able to listen live to speakers like Michael Bernard Beckwith, Neil Donald Walsh, Mary Ann Williamson, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, Panas Desai, and many more. I mean, there's like close to 50 speakers, and these speakers will be speaking live from actually our time, East Coast time. It'll be 11 a.m. to 12 midnight. Will be it will be broadcast from the West Coast, which is 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. But from our time, it will be 11 a.m. to 12 midnight. And Awake to Oneness Radio and the Kyle Foundation will be hosting a celebration. We'll have refreshments, we'll have live music, we'll have videos, and then we'll get to listen to the first 3 hours of the live stream summit while we're together at the library community room. So I just wanted to share that, because I kind of decided to do that a few days ago. I said,
that's wonderful.
You know what? I said, with Global Oneness Day, I've been actually, like I said, this is the 6th annual Global Oneness Day. And I've been personally been celebrating Global Oneness Day for the last 6 years. Last year, actually, I created a video for Global Oneness Day, and that will be one of the videos we'll be viewing at our celebration. But I said, this year, now that I have the radio show, I'm starting the nonprofit foundation. We need to team up and just host an event, and this will be our first annual Global Oneness Day that Awake to Oneness Radio and the Kyle Foundation will be hosting. So I wanted to share that. And if anyone is interested, let me give you the links. If anyone's interested in learning more about Global Oneness Day, you can go to www.globalonenesssummit.org. So that's globalonenesssummit.org, all one word. Or if you want any information on the celebration that Awake to Oneness Radio and the Kyle Foundation will be hosting at the Mount Pocono Public Library, go to awake2onenessradio.org. So that's awake2onenessradio.org. So, Laura, I can't believe the hour is just about gone, and it flew by, because when you're having fun,
That's right.
the time just flies. But I thank you so much. And actually, I will not be at Hot Yoga tomorrow. I told Yanni today I was coming, but I'm actually going hiking tomorrow.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, I'm going hiking at 10. I'm actually hosting a group, and we're hiking around, Tobyhanna State Park. So I will be missing another hot yoga class, but I won't miss it next Saturday. But this Saturday I won't be at hot yoga. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I so appreciate you coming on to the show and sharing your story, because it is so inspirational. It really is. I I definitely shared your story with my daughter. I'm hoping that, actually Sam, the gentleman I told you about, he actually has gone and talked to her. So I know her hearing these stories is going to give her the inspiration to just follow her dreams. And everybody listening, just follow your heart, follow your dreams. Don't let anything stop you. Just, that's the best advice any of us can give. So thank you so much. And you say hi to Yanni for me.
I will.
Have a wonderful weekend. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline.
Okay. Good night. I'm gonna we're gonna say good night, and we will give a little jingle as we leave. Okay. Good night.